A variable, that one thing that can flip the whole damn equation upside down. Sometimes it's tiny, barely noticeable. But if you don't keep it in check, it can bring the entire system crashing down. That summer, the biggest variable in my life came in the form of Matt's internship offer in Switzerland. 3 months at CERN, the place where the smartest people on the planet smash protons together to figure out how the universe ticks. The text hit my phone on a random Wednesday afternoon. I was in old man Sal's garage, hands black with grease from swapping oil in some beat-up Honda. Phone buzzed in my pocket. I wiped my fingers on a rag that was probably dirtier than my hands, pulled it out. Matt, I got the letter from CERN. They want me for the summer internship. 3 months. I don't know what to do. My heart slammed like an engine choking on bad fuel. I dropped onto the wooden stool, the sharp smell of motor oil thick around me, but my head went blank. 3 months. No Matt. No warm arms wrapping around me every day. No faint soap scent clinging to his hoodie. Just me, a sticky hot Boston summer, and the hole he'd leave behind. I typed back, trying to sound steady. Congrats, man. That's huge. You gotta go. He called right away. His voice cracked. Not from excitement, but from worry. I don't want to go if you're not okay with it. I'm scared. Scared you'll think I'm ditching you. I went quiet for a second, just listening to him breathe through the speaker. My left shoulder still ached from whatever I tweaked last week, but the real pain was deeper, right in my chest. I'm scared too, I admitted, voice rough. Scared you'll leave and not come back. Scared you'll meet someone smarter, better, out there. Scared I'll stay here grinding through classes and the garage, turning into dead weight. Matt let out a long breath. You could never be dead weight. I'm going because I want to learn, because I want to bring that shit back and help you with your projects, with our future. But I'm coming home. 3 months. I'll call every day, tell you everything. I gave a dry laugh, even though my eyes stung. If you start sending me pics of CERN, I'm gonna die of jealousy. He chuckled softly over the line. I'll send the ones you'll like best, me holding a coffee cup, thinking about you. We talked a little longer, then hung up. I sat there in the garage staring at the torn-apart Honda engine on the bench, and it hit me. Love isn't about locking the other person in your orbit. It's letting them launch higher, farther, and still trusting they'll swing back, because the pull between us is stronger than distance, stronger than time. That night we met at the Charles River, on one of those stone benches under a sky bleeding red at sunset. Matt leaned his head on my shoulder, fingers laced tight with mine. I'm going, he said quietly, but you have to promise me. Keep working in the garage, keep grinding on school, keep building your machines. Don't stop because of me. I nodded, pressed a kiss to his hair. Promise. And you better come back to me no matter how cool CERN gets. He tilted his face up, eyes catching the last of the light. Of course. You're my fixed point. Always have been. We stayed until full dark, river breeze kicking up cool against the humid summer air, carrying that mix of water and wet leaves. I held him tighter, his body warm against the chill settling in. Those 3 months ahead felt like forever, but I knew our love wasn't about holding on for dear life. It was about giving each other room to fly, then finding our way back to the same intersection. When I dropped him off at the dorm, I kissed him longer than usual. Deep, slow, like I was trying to burn every second into memory. Fly high, I whispered against his ear. Then come back and tell me all about it. Matt squeezed my hand one last time. I will. Always. I drove home alone, radio low, engine rumbling steady under me. The variable had shown up that summer, but for once I wasn't terrified. No matter how far Matt went, the gravity between us would hold me steady. Not let me spin out into freefall, but keep me waiting, patient, running my own orbit until he swung back around. Gravity, the pull between two masses, stronger the closer they get. You don't need fancy equations sometimes. Just a small, private space is enough for two people to feel it, raw, warm, impossible to fight. That Thanksgiving, we didn't go home. We didn't have one to go to. Matt had landed back in Boston exactly 2 days earlier after his summer internship in Switzerland. dragging a suitcase stuffed with textbooks and a box of Swiss chocolate. We'd rented a tiny Airbnb in South End, just one bedroom, a kitchen the size of a closet, and a big window looking out on red brick streets. No roommates, no dorm rules, no one knocking at 2 a.m., just us. And for the first time, it actually felt like home. I grabbed a small turkey from the grocery store. Matt handled the veggies and the pie. We stood shoulder to shoulder in that cramped kitchen, the smell of butter-sautéed onions filling every corner. My hands were still rough and calloused from the garage, but tonight they held a knife instead of a wrench. Matt pressed up behind me, chin on my shoulder, arms looping around my waist to guide me. Thinner slices, babe. Otherwise they won't cook even. I snorted. Since when do you know how to cook? Picked it up in Geneva. He murmured against my ear, warm breath brushing my neck. Had some downtime. Figured I'd learn. We shoved the turkey into the ancient oven. Fat hissed and dripped onto the tray, filling the room with rosemary, browned butter, roasting meat. Everything mixing together until the little apartment felt warmer than it had any right to, even with Boston's early winter bite outside. We ate at the tiny wooden table. No candles, no playlist, just the quiet clink of forks and our low laughter. After, we slid down to the floor, backs against the couch, legs stretched out. Matt rested his head on my shoulder, cold fingers threading through mine. I told him about the startup idea I'd been turning over in my head. A small garage specializing in hybrid repairs, plus engine tuning services to squeeze better mileage out of cars. No money, no investors, no family cheering me on. Just the idea, my hands, and old man Sal willing to let me borrow a corner of his shop. Sounds insane, I know, I said, voice catching a little. But I want to try. I want to build something that's mine, not riding on scholarships or anyone else. Something real. Matt lifted his head. His eyes caught the soft yellow light from the lamp. It's not insane. It's you. You're good at making machines run better than they were built to, and I believe you'll pull it off. If you need it, I'll run the efficiency numbers, build the simulation models. We've got each other. I squeezed his hand hard. What if I crash and burn? What if I drag you down with me? He shook his head, voice steady. Then we get up together. I'm not scared of failing. I'm only scared of losing you. Everything else, that's just variables. And I'm ready to solve the equation with you. We lay down right there on the floor, a thin blanket under us, staring up at the plain white ceiling. Hands locked. I could feel his heartbeat steady next to mine. No savings, no family backing, no guarantees about tomorrow. But we had the one constant that mattered, each other. The gravity between two small masses, strong enough to hold us together no matter how the rest of the universe spun. Matt turned toward me, kissed me slow and deep, like he was memorizing every second. Thank you, he whispered against my lips, for making this Thanksgiving feel whole. I smiled, pulled him closer. Thank you, for making it feel like home. That night we fell asleep tangled up, listening to the wind rattle the windows and distant cars hum past. Nothing fancy, nothing perfect, but warm. And I was genuinely thankful, not for what we already had, but for what we were building. Our own space, a shared future, a love with no conditions attached. Thanksgiving isn't about the big meal. For me, it was that moment. Two guys lying on the floor of a rented apartment, hands clasped, knowing that whatever the future threw at us, we'd still be each other's fixed point. Escape velocity, the minimum speed an object needs to break free from a celestial body's gravity, so it never gets pulled back. It's not about going the fastest. It's about going just fast enough that once you leave, you're gone for good. Today was the day I sold my old pickup truck. The last real tether I had to Lincoln High, to the muddy football field, to the disappointed look on my dad's face. I needed the cash to finally put into the little garage I'd been dreaming up. More than that, I needed to hit escape velocity from my past. It was a gray Saturday afternoon in Boston, the kind where the sky can't decide if it wants to rain or just drizzle forever. Mist hung in the air, making the asphalt shine like black glass. I drove the truck one last time out to the salvage yard in outer Somerville, the place old man Sal had told me about, where a guy named Henry bought beat-up rides for parts or flips. The engine growled the way it always had, tires hissing on wet pavement, that familiar mix of old leather and leftover motor oil filling the cab. My hands gripped the wheel tight, thumb tracing the crack in the upholstery, the one I'd meant to fix 100 times but never did. It reminded me of the long drives from Lincoln to here, windows down, radio low, Matt's hand on my thigh half the time. I pulled up to the gate, killed the engine. The sudden silence rang in my ears. Henry came out, middle-aged, big gut, cigarette dangling from his lips. He walked a slow circle around the truck, nodding like he already knew its story. "Runs good for its age," he said. "Engine's still solid." "How much?" I swallowed. $3,000. Firm. He didn't haggle much. "Deal. Cash or transfer?" "Cash." I stepped out, shut the door for the last time. The thunk was sharp, final, like a period at the end of a long sentence. I stood there staring at it. Faded silver paint scratched to hell, headlights fogged from years of rain, tires worn smooth from thousands of miles. That truck had carried Matt and me out of Lincoln High for good. It had hauled us through late Boston nights, stolen kisses in parking lots, the times I sat alone in the driver's seat crying because I was terrified of what came next. Henry counted out the bills, old, slightly wrinkled, faint ink smell. I took them, hands shaking, but not from regret. From relief. I'd hit escape velocity. The past couldn't drag me back anymore. I turned and walked away without looking over my shoulder. Behind me, Henry fired up the engine, the growl fading as he rolled the truck deeper into the yard, swallowed by stacks of rusted hulks. Rain soaked through my hoodie, cold against my skin, but I didn't feel it. For the first time, I felt free. I caught the bus back downtown, sat by the window watching the city blur past. The wad of cash was heavy in my pocket, palm still damp from the drizzle. I texted Matt, "Sold the truck. Done." He replied instantly, "You okay?" "Yeah, really okay." When I got back to the apartment, Matt was already there, home early from the lab, hair wet from the rain, wearing my hoodie like it was his now. He yanked the door open before I could knock, pulled me inside, wrapped me up tight right there in the doorway. I buried my face in his neck, breathing in soap and old books and him. "You did it," he whispered, hand rubbing slow circles on my back. I nodded against his skin, voice rough. "Yeah." Nothing left pulling me back to Lincoln. Just the future now with you. We slid down to the floor, backs against the wall, hands locked together. Rain tapped steady against the window. I told him everything. Henry's cigarette, the final slam of the door, the weird lightness when the money hit my palm. Matt listened without interrupting, just squeezed my hand harder whenever I paused. When I finished, he leaned in and kissed my forehead. "You didn't lose anything. You traded something old and heavy for something new, freedom, a real shot. I'm proud of you." I smiled. "Thanks. For always being my fixed point." He rested his head on my shoulder. "You're mine too." We sat like that until the room went dark. No more words needed. The truck was gone. The past was gone. Now it was just us. Two guys in a small rented apartment under Boston rain with enough velocity to fly far, but always enough gravity to come back to each other. The universe isn't a perfect straight line. It's a chaotic mess of motion, full of collisions, pushes, pulls, and endless voids. But sometimes, in the middle of all that chaos, two objects find each other, lock into a shared orbit, and everything starts to feel stable. Not because it's flawless, but because they belong together. We stood on the roof of the Prudential Center, Boston sprawling out below us at night. The wind cut sharp and cold, carrying the faint salt of the harbor mixed with exhaust and neon buzz. The city lights glittered like a fallen Milky Way, long streaks of white and gold, curving and overlapping in every direction. Matt stood right beside me, fingers laced tight through mine, hoodie pulled up because he's always freezing. I squeezed his hand gently, feeling the warmth of his skin against the bite in the air. I looked down at the city, voice rough from the wind and from everything I was about to say. I used to be so scared, Matt. Scared I wasn't good enough. Scared that if I couldn't throw a perfect spiral, couldn't land an Ivy scholarship, couldn't make my dad proud, then I was nothing. I thought life was a game. You had to win, had to be perfect, had to be number 7 on the field. But then I figured it out. Life isn't a straight line. It's this wild, complicated dance. Sometimes you slam into something so hard it breaks bones. Sometimes you drift so far apart you think you're lost forever. Sometimes it hurts so bad you want to quit. But those are the moments that teach you how to get back up, how to find your orbit again. Matt turned to look at me. His eyes caught the city glow, bright and steady. He didn't interrupt, just listened, the way he's done since that first day in the Lincoln High Library. I thought I'd lost everything. I went on, voice dropping lower against the wind. My dad, the team, that star image everyone used to cheer for. But then I got you. You're not something I need to succeed. You're what I need to feel alive. You're the gravity that keeps me from spinning out when I want to fly off in every direction. And even when I get lost, when I'm weak, when I'm scared, you're still there. Patient. Solid. Like the one constant in my messed up equation. I stopped, pulled in a deep breath of cold air. The wind picked up, whipping Matt's hair into a mess. He gave me that small smile, the one that's just for me, quiet, real, no show. I don't know what the future's gonna look like, I said. The garage might crash and burn. I might not graduate with honors. There might be nights my shoulder hurts again. Nights I snap at you, nights I'm terrified all over. But there's one thing I know for sure. No matter how the universe spins, I'll always find my way back to you. Because you're home. Not some brick building, not Lincoln High, not even Boston, you. As long as I've got you, I'm already there. Matt squeezed my hand harder, then leaned his head against my shoulder. We stood like that, staring down at Boston's man-made stars, streetlights, building windows, headlights, shimmering and moving nonstop. No more words. We didn't need them. The talking was done. All that was left was shared breath, shared heartbeat, and the pull between us, stronger than any black hole that ever tried to drag me away. The wind kept blowing, sharp and freezing, but I wasn't cold anymore. Not with Matt right there. My fixed point, my gravity, the brightest star in my chaotic sky. We stayed until the night got deep, then turned and headed back down. Hand in hand, steps falling in sync, like two gears that had finally clicked into place. The city kept humming and pulsing below us, but it didn't feel scary anymore. No matter how many wild motions, how many crashes, how many empty spaces, we were still here, together, and that was enough.